Welcome back to the Betting Expert channel here on YouTube. My name is Adam, and today I look ahead to the weekend's UFC action. We got UFC 254 coming up this Saturday, where Khabib will take on Justin Gaethje for the lightweight title in the main event. I got 3 best bets for this fight card, so without further ado, let's get straight into it. Alright, so let's start off with the prelims, where I have my eye on some value. I'm looking at the fight Nathaniel Wood versus Casey Kenney. We got Nathaniel Wood as the underdog right now at about odds 2.50. I think that line's way off. This should be a pick'em fight. Both fighters are prospects, hot up-and-coming contenders in their division. But I do think that Nathaniel Wood matches up really well against Casey Kenney, and I do think that this should be a pick'em fight. A couple reasons why. First of all, Kenney actually is not a knockout puncher, and we've seen historically from Wood's losses that he does tend to come up short only against these guys that can kind of exploit his striking defense. I do believe his striking defense is his biggest weakness at the moment. And Kenney only has about 2 knockouts on his record, only one legitimate one. The other one was a doctor stoppage. So I do think that without the power threat, the knockout threat from Kenney, I do think that Wood will be able to kind of advance and have a bit more confidence of going forward without being hit with a big shot. That's number one. Second of all is the fact that Wood is actually unbeaten in decision fights. This is pretty big because Casey actually has suffered both of his professional losses. Going the distance, he lost to Merab Dvalishvili, and he lost a fight on Dana White's Contender Series via split decision. And I do think that Wood has the chance to go the distance with Kenney and get the nod from the judges. Both fighters are also very good at mixing up their strikes to different targets of their opponent's body, the head, body, and legs. I do value that a lot, but I do think that also the fact that this is a catchweight bout actually favors Wood, who might be the bigger man in this matchup. So for all those reasons, I think the value is absolutely on Wood's side, and I think that he can win this fight 5 out of 10 times. So I'm going with Nathaniel Wood against Casey Kenney. For the second betting set, we head to the middleweight division, where Robert Whittaker, the Reaper, is taking on Jared Cannonier. This is the co-main event. I really like Whittaker in this spot. I was able to get him at a dog price, but I think at pick'em odds, the value is still absolutely on the Reaper here. I do think that this line is actually way off. I do think that Whittaker is only a dog in this spot because he did get knocked out against Israel Adesanya. Prior to that fight, he was coming in on a long winning streak, and he'd won two decision fights against Yoel Romero, who hits really hard. He's a power puncher. Whittaker has the chin, endurance. He has good recovery, even though he gets dropped. I think he's been dropped quite a few times in his last few fights. Nonetheless, he put on a good show against Till. Really showed his leg kicks to full effect. And I just think that Cannonier is a bit overvalued here because of his 3-fight KO winning streak against Anderson Silva and most recently Jack Hermansson. I do think David Branch and Anderson Silva are 2 lesser opponents. I don't really think we can judge him based on those fights. Jack Hermansson was very impressive, but historically we need to remember that Jack Hermansson actually loses fights where he cannot get his opponent, or at least hold his opponent down. And that's exactly what happened against Cannonier in Copenhagen. But I do think that Whittaker does have a history of being disrespected by the bookmakers. I think we need to take advantage of that here. I don't see why he should be an underdog against Jared Cannonier when he has 2 decision wins over a similar opponent in Yoel Romero. I think Whittaker is good at mixing up the strikes. If you followed my picks, you know I like these guys that are good at the variation in striking, leg kicks, body kicks, head strikes. He showcased that against Darren Till. I do think that Whittaker is able to get it done here. And last point, Whittaker is almost unbeaten in decision fights. He only lost one decision to a very close split decision to Court McGee. It was 7 or 8 years ago. And Cannonier actually has lost the majority of his UFC bouts on the scorecards. I do think there is it gives me an image of a composure issue for Cannonier, the fact that he has trouble winning on the scorecards. That's a big advantage for Whittaker. All in all, I like the Reaper to get the win here. That's my second betting tip. Alright guys, third and final betting tip for me. We're going straight to the main event. Gaethje versus Khabib. What a fight. I'm so excited about this now. I do like Khabib in this spot. He's a favorite of about odds 1.28 right now. I still think there's a little bit of value, but I would say that if I had to make a suggestion, it would be that pick this fight if there is some more money coming in on Gaethje, because Gaethje is actually, in my opinion, his biggest challenge to date. I still think Khabib's going to get his hand raised, but I would like a bit more value on that side for me to bet it. Nonetheless, I do think that Khabib wins this fight 80% of the time, and I have some reasons why. Number one, Khabib is really undefeated for a reason, and I can't stress this enough. He has tremendous fight IQ, and his technical and strategic approach to fighting is tremendous. I think this was most apparent in his fight against Dustin Poirier and his fight against Conor McGregor. Against Conor, he really showed that he was really aware of the left hand of Conor's, and he actually, if you go back and watch that fight, I think it's on YouTube right now, he showed me that every time he went forward, he knew that Conor would try to counter with the left hook, and he ducked his head underneath it a lot of times. So I think that's super impressive. He comes from a good training camp. Against Poirier, I think he showed how good his grappling really is. Poirier is actually a pretty high level grappler, and he was just able to completely dominate him. And even on the striking, Poirier didn't even look like he had much to offer. And let's remember that the only reason that Gaethje is really on our radar, on my radar at least, is because he won a striking battle over Tony Ferguson. But let's keep in mind that this is by no means a striking fight, this is a grappling fight. And despite the fact that many people are saying that Gaethje has this great background in wrestling, we haven't really gotten a chance to see it in the UFC because he hasn't really faced a high-level grappler by the likes of Khabib before. And we have to remember that wrestling is different from MMA grappling, because you have the fence, and Khabib is just, he studied this grappling for his entire life. I don't think anybody can stop his grappling, to be honest. And finally, I do think that Khabib's striking is actually pretty underrated. If we go back to the McGregor fight in the third round, that was a round that Khabib actually lost, but it was very close, and Khabib actually managed to get in some good counter shots and actually really held his own in that round, in pure striking round for McGregor. And we have seen some endurance problems for Gaethje beforehand throughout his career. He does tend to get tired. I don't know, I think Khabib definitely has an advantage on the cardio, and if this fight goes the distance, I can't see Gaethje winning a decision. He only has a puncher's chance here. He needs a first or maybe early second round KO. And Khabib only absorbs like a little over one punch every minute. His striking defense, head movement is off the charts. I like the favorite, the champ here, to remain undefeated. He moved to 29-0. I like Khabib to beat Justin Gaethje Saturday night. Alright guys, so that was my UFC 254 preview. Remember, the fights are going down this very Saturday. Thank you so much for watching, and best of luck with your bets.